Hi everyone, it's Desiree and I am here with Birch Press Design today, and we are going to focus on the mini frame layering dies. So with each of these, the Dahlia, the Mini Snowflake, and the Dazzle mini frame, there are 3 layers for each. Now you could just use the top layer with this technique, but we're going to use all 3 layers. So we're also going to focus on our scraps. So for a little bit, I've been making cards and loving the Memory Box 6x6 papers. So, and I always keep my scraps, and I keep them in a little tiny clear envelope, like I keep my dies or stamps in. This is just a 6x6. So these are all my scraps. I keep all of the like ones together sometimes. And these are the color shades that I've pulled out. So we are only going to work with these and some plain white cardstock. As always, I have my die cuts all ready to go. So we will get to layering those. And let's get started showing you what I'm going to do with these scraps and our layering die cuts to make them the focal point. Here we go. Let's start building our cards. So I've already taken care, as always, of the die cutting. So again, I have my 3 layers, and I just used white cardstock. By layering these together and having that dimension, I sometimes feel just using white cardstock gives you the biggest impact when it comes to a layering die. It's almost the same effect, and again, my opinion, as those 3D embossing folders. And I am really starting to love these 3D embossing folders because they create the backgrounds. You can make them be your focal point. So this kind of reminded me of that. Now, I did that same thing to the other 2 as well. Again, it's just using our liquid glue, layering them up, and having fun. Here, I dug into my scraps. Now, these scraps, I keep my like scraps together. Don't ask. So these are all of the scraps from those Memory Box 6x6 paper pads that I've been using lately. So to use those up, I am just cutting different strip sizes. So I'm not even taking notice if they're 1/4 of an inch, if they're 1/2 an inch, if they're an inch. I'm just cutting strips. So now remember, these are 6 inches long. Sometimes they're shorter. And I grouped the cardstock up into color families. So all of the cools, all of the warms, and then I just had these blue shades for that mini snowflake frame. I'm going to use my tape runner here, loaded it up with tape, and now I'm just going to lay down my cardstock. Now, what you want to take into consideration, now you saw my finger waving back and forth there. So with these strips, while they're 6 inches long for the most part, some of them were not. Doesn't mean you cannot do your strip piecing with your scraps. You've just got to know the orientation on how you're laying those down. So that's why I decided to go straight across. If I did it on the angle, I wouldn't have had them long enough from corner to corner. Now I could have pieced it and made it look like a wood floor. I think that looks great. Create your own texture. But I did just want to have these going across to fill that. Now this panel is cut to 3 1/4 by 4 1/2 inches. So it's 3 1/4 from side to side, 4 1/2 from top to bottom. To me, this is so enjoyable when you cut the strips off the side. It's better, for me, it's better than watching embossing powder melt. It's just relaxing. I don't know. I do like to use my long shears when I do that, because then I can just cut right up along that. And here are the other 2. The other 2 I went on an angle. And now I'm going to place the layered panels, the mini frames, on top of these striped or stripped panels. It's a great stash buster by doing those. And I just think it really adds a lot of texture and dimension to your cards. Now, you could actually put the stripes in the same order, however you would want to do that. Now, this panel that I'm putting the striped on, the white, that is measuring 3.5 across from side to side by 4 3/4 top to bottom. Then it's being put on a 4 1/4 by 5.5 base that matches it in solid cardstock from my stash. So again, they each have their own theme. The Dahlia mini frame die, that just gave me, you know, those bright citrusy colors. This modern one, I kind of went with the blue shades, but that also pulled in the deep pinks and the purples. So that kind of, you know, went back and forth, a little bit of modern deco going on there. When it comes to, I'm sorry, they're put directly on card bases. Standard A2 side card bases. Yeah, I'm funny. But they do measure 4 1/4 by 5.5, and they are top folding. And then, of course, for the snowflake, I went with the tones of blues, the blues and the grays. You know, we always link things as we go around and create our cards. And then again, so I think it's neat that that frame kind of blocks off those edges. Now, you could also use that frame die too and cut out that center of the stripes and just have it to be the plain white on the inside and have that stripe be like a frame around it too. So that's another way to use these. Again, not only are we going into our stash and busting that and digging into that, but we're also using these dies in another way for them to be that focal point. I added my sentiment. I used the big and little reverse words. I am really loving that. I just love the simple sentiments that it has, the difference that you can create with it because you can use so many different colors by making these blocks. And they just add a great impact to the card. Now, I did also use gems. So I used gems from Pinkfresh Studio and Trinity. To fill in those areas. So I just think these came out really great. I think these would be a great note card set if you didn't want to put a sentiment on them, and a great gift for somebody, and of course a great card to send somebody who just needs to know you're thinking about them. So I do hope you enjoyed today's project with Birch Press Designs, and we are featuring their mini frame layering dies. And those that they have out right now. As always, all the products that I use will be listed down below. And if you have any questions, list those down below as well, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I hope you all are having a great day. Continue to stay safe as we continue through our journey. But most of all, remember what's always important to me. Always be creative, everyone. Until the next one, take care.